welcome everybody. This is Money Talks for Seniors. This is our first Money Talks for Seniors from the Primary Care Networks in Burnaby. Thank you for joining us. Today we're really lucky enough to have some folks from the 411 Senior Center Society, from the Information Referral Department. We're going to speak to you about a number of different issues around the issues that seniors are facing as we go through this kind of challenging time for everybody. And we all have a range of different challenges, but we know that some of the stuff that's coming forward around the benefits that are available and the impacts on our taxes and are for everybody incredibly confusing. So the folks from 411 Senior Center are going to shed some light on it. You're going to get a series of 3 presentations, and then at the end of each one, we'll give you some time for questions. And certainly, if you have questions at the end, we'll be able to take those as well. So with us, we have Dave Hibbard and Marion Pollock, who are both volunteers at the 411 Senior Center in the Information Referral Department. They both have a long history of helping people out with these kind of stuff, or around the financial elements, or particularly around pensions and benefits. And we're also joined by Monica Marguia, who is the Membership and Volunteer Coordinator, who will also be talking to us today. So I'm going to turn it over to the 3 of you. Folks, if you do want to listen in Mandarin, it is being translated live in Mandarin. You just have to hit the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. And if you have any questions, you can click the button that says Q&A, or put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get the questions up so that the experts can answer. So I'll turn it over. I don't know which of the 3 of you wants to lead, but I'll turn it over to you now. Thank you.
I'm going to be talking about federal benefits for seniors. Most people's income shifts to pensions when they're 65. Many people have contributed to the Canada Pension Plan through all their working life, and that varies by how much they earned and how much they worked. That one's available at age 60, and it's worth waiting, I think, for a lot of people, and some people have no choice. They have to take it at age 60. I'm not really going to talk a lot about the CPP, because the central anchor of seniors benefits is the Old Age Security program. The Old Age Security program provides just over $600 a month to anybody in Canada who's lived here most of their lives, and I'll talk a fair bit about that. I'm also going to talk about the Guaranteed Income Supplement, which really is the money that seniors actually live on. It's about for most seniors, it's about 2/3 of their income. It's income tested, means there's a lot of application process, involves collecting information from your tax return. Tax returns every year are really important, and getting the application right is also very important. There are other seniors benefits, like the allowances. There's an allowance for people whose partner if the family's low income and the partner is under age 65 and the other partner is over 65, they can get a little money. And there's the survivor benefit, which is it used to be called a widow's pension, but now it's applied to both genders. Can I have the next slide, please? And the next slide after that. Some of this I think we can go through quickly. So to get Old Age Security, you have to be 65, and you have to meet the Canadian legal status and residence. In other words, you have to be a legal resident of Canada or a Canadian citizen, and you have to have lived here at least 10 of the last years, 10 years since you were 18. And some people receive it automatically. Most of the people we see at the 411 Senior Center are people who have not gotten it automatically. Next slide, please. Um, apply early. That's a very important thing. If you're turning 64, start thinking about applying. You should get a letter from Service Canada just after your 64th birthday, telling you you're enrolled or to apply. Next slide, please. Here is a little bit more detail about who's eligible. Sometimes the people who have not been a resident of Canada the whole time since they were 18 run into problems because Service Canada might ask people to prove their residency. And so suppose you moved to Canada, worked for a while in the United States, and then came back to Canada, you have to report the times that you worked outside of the country if it was more than 6 months of the times. So, and the 10-year residency, some people who have only been here for 9 years don't yet qualify for a pension. Next slide, please. There's nothing on this slide. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, we can go to the next slide. A waiting period for, yes, reply early. This is what this is about. Some people will get a letter saying they're automatically enrolled, especially people who have started their Canada pension plan early. That it might mean that you're automatically enrolled. But they, you know, if you didn't get a letter, it might be because your address has changed or something like that. Next slide, please. Again, apply early. If you apply later, or if your pension is delayed, you would usually get a retroactive payment. So some people who might apply right at age 65 might not get their pension for 11 months. And that creates other problems because those people might need to go on social assistance for a bit after 65, which the provincial government is very reluctant to give welfare to people over 65. Next slide, please. Okay, you can defer your pension up until age 70. You'll get a slightly more each month for each month that you delay it. However, most of the people that I see will need the money right away. I don't see a lot of people who are deferring. Usually people who defer are people who are still working. If you're still working until you're 70 and you have a comfortable income, you don't really need to have your OAS wait, and you'll get more later on. Of course, you're at 70, you're 5 years closer to it ending when you die, so there's less money coming in over the long run. Next slide, please. Auto apply. Again, if you got an automatic enrollment, you're fine. Otherwise, you'll need an application. And I think that's the next slide. There is sorry, go back. There is a link on this thing to the application for the Old Age Security form. If you can't get a hold of it this way, you can go to Service Canada, and Service Canada has all these forms online. If you're into doing a bit of a complicated web search, what I would do is Google these words: application for Old Age Security pension. It should come up right away, and print it and fill it out. Next slide, please. This slide's taking a while to load. Some people who lived outside of Canada can get, suppose you work 10 years in the United States and you're entitled to Social Security, you can apply to have the two, to a Social Security agreement, you can apply to have the two pensions combined. That way it saves both Canada and the United States from each sending you a check. And they equalize it cross-border. That next slide, please. The supplement is really, really important. This is for low-income people. It will give people move people's monthly income sometimes from $613 a month up to about $1,600. So it's an extra $1,000 a month. $1,600 a month doesn't sound like a lot, but if someone tried to live on $600 a month, they'd starve to death, basically. I'm going to talk about the supplement first, so I'll have the next slide. Now, there is an income cutoff, and I believe that's about $26,000 a year, and up in the 40s, I think, for people who are, for families. And this is really important. The guaranteed income supplement is not given to individuals. If you have a spouse or a common law partner, your income and theirs are considered together for the supplement. If for people who are single, it's based on their individual tax return. It has to be applied for, but once it's applied for, even if it's denied 1 year, if your income goes down, it'll kick in the next. Next slide, please. So these are the conditions. You have to be a resident of Canada. In other words, if you have a place in Florida that you go to for 8 months of the year, you don't qualify for guaranteed supplement. You have to be in Canada for 6 months plus a day every year in order to qualify for it. And of course, getting the old age security pension, you have to qualify for that. There should be more on this slide. I don't know why there we go. So the annual income you need changes every year a little bit. Let's go on a bit. The annual income is declared on your income taxes. It's extremely important that seniors file your income taxes every year on time. This is not something that you can sort of forget and say, okay, well, I won't pay any taxes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'll file in a couple of years and get my GST. The other thing about filing your taxes this year is people will have noticed that they've got a carbon tax refund, and it's actually a fair bit more money than a GST rebate. Can I have the next slide, please? So they're talking about doing an automatic review every July. When they do this review, it could be that there's suppose you had an RIF that ran out of money, so your income dropped. If your income drops in this kind of a case, you should report the income drop right away to GIS, because otherwise you might end up being short that money for a whole year, and they'll increase your GIS if you lost an RIF, or a private pension died, or you had some other thing, part-time job. So these kinds of things, you are allowed to work and collect pensions. Working will affect your supplement. It will make your supplement less. Next slide, please. Sometimes we see at the center, we see people who haven't been in Canada for 10 years, but have no income because their sponsor lost their job or got ill or disabled. And this is, in this case, there are a list on this slide showing you what are the conditions on which you can apply if the sponsor is bankrupt and so on. And we can go back and look at these. In the next slide, please. And this is about residency. And Service Canada frequently asks people to prove their residency. They want to see your immigration papers, a copy of your record of landing, I believe is the most important document to back up your claim that you came to Canada in 2002 instead of 2005, that kind of thing. And the pension will increase with residency until they reach 10 years. I'll go on to the next. This is how to apply. I don't know if people get this live or not. If you can't hit on this thing, you can always get it out of Service Canada. Also, this is something we do for people at the 411 Center a lot. This is like a major part of our work there, is just printing out pension forms and helping people fill them out. Next slide, please. And the next, I'm going to leave this for people to read. I'm running out of time here. Now, when you apply for OAS, the application for the supplement is included in it. And when you receive this benefit, the supplement and GIS come together in the same payment, usually by direct deposit. And the next page, please. This is what people at 411 spend July doing. Marion laughs. In July, the federal government cuts off everybody who didn't file a tax return. And we spend a lot of effort in July trying to get people's taxes filed and get Service Canada to put them back on, because you think about someone who's making $1,600 a month is suddenly down to $600 a month. They're in trouble. And so anyway, this is something, it can stop, and it's quite disastrous for people if it does stop. So this is our chance to warn people. Pay attention. Also, if you know somebody who's starting to slide, get a little bit demented, back them up, give them some support. Help, like, that your neighbor is getting a little old and a little slowing down a bit. Ask them if they filed their taxes, and offer to drive them to a tax clinic. That really, really makes a big difference to people. Next slide, please.
I just want to say, this year and for this year only, the federal government has set the date for seniors to file their income tax till October 1st. You will keep your GIF if you file your income tax before October 1st. And the 411 Senior Center, Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have an income tax clinic at 333 Terminal, and you can come there and get your income tax filed.
Okay. I talked about this before. The allowance is for if you've always depended on the income of someone, your spouse, you're being supported by your spouse, and then your spouse retires, you're entitled to the allowance, and that has to be applied for. But I'm going to move on. I'm running out of time. And here are the conditions. I'll go to the next slide. The survivor, if you have a low income and your partner had a higher income, you can apply for the survivor benefit. And this is something, again, when your partner dies, you apply, and you probably when you apply, you're probably also applying for the CPP death benefit and a few other things that usually the executor of an estate will go through all of these things that you're entitled to and help to support you with it. Next one. They're indexed. There's a slight increase every 3 months in OAS and GIS, usually. Next. And that's my presentation. If people have questions, I probably will try to answer them now.
Thanks, Dave. That's great. You answered a lot of the questions that have come up, and so I think that's perfect. I think there is one question, and I know that Mariana did answer it in the chat, but I think things that folks are kind of worried about is there a possibility that some of these benefits are going to disappear? We just saw that there's a $350 billion deficit coming forward. Do seniors have to worry at all that any of these benefits might be retracted, or is the pension or the guaranteed income? Do you think there's any risk in that?
Well, pensioners need to remind themselves that they're voters, and the politicians know that pensioners are voters. In fact, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote. Am I worried about it? No, I'm not personally, although there's reasons for concern. I mean, there's some way that the government's going to end up having to pay for all of this, and some of these things are really quite expensive for the government.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can say really besides that, Jeff.
Okay. And just, go ahead, Marianne. Yeah.
There's been fear-mongering in the past about the Old Age Security and its health. But even the Chief Actuary of Canada has said Old Age Security was in good shape. Now, this was all before COVID-19, but I seriously doubt that the programs they'll attack are Old Age Security or the Guaranteed Income Supplement. But it says that seniors have to be vigilant.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. And I guess along the same lines, I mean, it's been great that the government has been supporting seniors in a variety of ways through this pandemic, and they've been sending some income supplements beyond these benefits. Do any of those have an impact on the benefits themselves? I'm sure that they have to report them in their taxes, but is there do they have any impact on the actual benefits?
This is what we've been checking out a lot, right? And the $300 supplement that people in Old Age Security got this week, or the $500 supplement that people in OAS and GIS got this week, is non-taxable. It will not affect your future GIS or your future OAS.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Well, thank you. That's great. I think all of the other questions you've answered in the presentation. Really want to thank you, and I don't know who's next. Okay, Mary.
I want to talk about fair pharmacare. Often at the 411 Senior Center, we get seniors who say that they can't afford their drugs. And while we don't have a national pharmacare program, BC has a fairly good fair pharmacare program. It's not automatic. You need to apply for it, and there's some information in the next slide. It helps people with your cost of drugs and some designated medical supplies. The first thing you need to know, next slide. The first thing you need to know about fair pharmacare is that you need to file your income tax. It's based on your income tax of 2 years ago, and there is depending on the income, you may have a deductible, and then once you once you pay your deductible, and then there is a ceiling, and you pay 70% or cent till you receive your ceiling, and then the fair pharmacare pays for everything else. It's a very good program to get your prescriptions paid for, or assistance with your prescriptions. Next slide. It's income-based, so the lower income you are, and that means for a lot of seniors who are pretty low income, the higher pharmacare assistance you get. Next slide. You don't need a card. You just need to go and apply, and you're on it. In fact, fair pharmacare is pretty quick. Once you're on it, once you apply for it and get it, it's 1 or 2 days before it becomes active. Next slide. So in order to be on fair pharmacare, you must have filed income tax. You must have a valid MSP coverage, and that's basically it. If you were born before 1940, you get even at more enhanced pharmacare. Next slide. So the drugs can be prescribed by a physician, a dentist, a midwife, although we don't expect a lot of seniors to get their drugs prescribed by midwife, a nurse practitioner, an optometrist, or a podiatrist. So there's a wide variety of people who can prescribe drugs. Next slide. So it also covers some, besides drugs, it covers some supplies, including insulin needles and syringe, and insulin pump supplies, certain ostomy supplies, certain prosthetic appliance supplies, and if you're in the BC Smoking Cessation Program, some anti-smoking replacement programs. Next slide. So once a year, you can get, if you have take 5 or more medications, you can get a medication review service. That's free if you're covered by a pharmacare, and it also covers the reasonable pharmacy dispensing fees. Next slide. So it doesn't cover a lot. It covers really important things. It doesn't cover like insulin pumps for adults, hearing aids, CPAP machines, wheelchairs and walkers. And we often at 411 see people who need these services, but they're not covered by pharmacare. Next slide. So you have to go to a pharmacy or a drugstore that's enrolled in the Fair Pharmacare program, and you can't purchase drugs or supplies from outside BC. And so if people, seniors are going on online pharmacies, you need to be very careful because they may not be covered by Fair Pharmacare. And if your pharmacy has really high dispensing fees, they're not covered. Next slide. So it uses your net income, and that, you know, for your pharmacare. Next slide. And what often we see is people whose income, and this is especially true for people who retire, their income has decreased by 10% or more in the past 2 years. So you can submit an income review and get a higher pharmacare coverage. Next slide. And you know, you can provide, this is how to do it. It shows you. But at the 411 Senior Center, we help people with this all the time. And we're quite able to do it. Next slide. You can register for Fair Pharmacare on the website, or you can phone them. Next slide. You can phone them, and the phone number is 604-683-7151 from the Lower Mainland. And they're really helpful people. You don't need to be nervous or worried about phoning them. They'll walk you through it, and they're very helpful. Next slide. So you can, for more information, you can go online or you can phone them. Next slide. And there's information. So that's really basically it. But Fair Pharmacare is such an important program because so many seniors come into 411 saying, I got these prescriptions, I can't afford them, and we can get them coverage through Fair Pharmacare.
That's great. Thank you, Mary. And I think you're right. I think it's just not a very as well-known a program as it possibly could be. And it seems like you can make it pretty easy for people to enroll in it. You mentioned about pharmacies. It needs to be a pharmacy that's enrolled in it. Are most of the pharmacies enrolled in Fair Pharmacare?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very few that are not.
There are, yeah, most of them are, because it would just make sense. And I guess it also, I would imagine that, you know, if you have a relationship with your pharmacist, they might be able to help you and guide you around the Fair Pharmacare program as well.
Yes, if they have the time. My pharmacy, for instance, had pamphlets about enrolling in Fair Pharmacare.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it's good to have a good pharmacist. That's for absolutely certain.
Yes, and really, people should know that, you know, if they need help in applying for Fair Pharmacare, you can contact the 411 Senior Center.
That's perfect. Thank you. I don't think there are any questions. That was really complete. I really appreciate it. I guess, Monica, the last session is up to you.
Yes, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is, Jeff's mentioned, is Monica Murguia, and I'm working at 411 Senior Center Society. I'm the volunteer membership coordinator, being here for quite a bit and be very familiar with all these situations that seniors deal with every day. So today we are going to talk about the British Columbia Bus Pass program. First of all, I need to tell you that this is a program that we have, or seniors have to apply for. And of course, it's a reduced cost annual bus pass for low-income seniors, right? This for seniors living in the province of British Columbia. Next slide, please. So where is the BC Bus Pass valid? Of course, it's valid in communities served by BC Transit and TransLink, sorry. So what is this? So this is the people who is a holder of a bus pass can use all the buses, SkyTrains, but no HandyDART. The HandyDART is not included in this. And there's people who also use the transit outside of Vancouver, the TransLink provider services. So these people also can use the best bus pass, but they have to go and apply for a sticker. This sticker is going to be placed on top of their bus pass, and that sticker is going to allow them to travel in the interior using the BC Transit. This pass, as I said, is just valid for public transit, not for HandyDART, and just can be used for the rider, cannot be transferable, you cannot lend it or anything else, right? Next slide, please. So who is eligible for this service? So people who are receiving the guaranteed income supplement for sure, and or the allowance for the survivor, people who are in the range of 60 and 64 years old and receiving income assistance as well, and people who is over 5 years old of age and also will qualify for GIS. Does not meet the 10 years Canada residency requirement. People who is also in the range of 60 to 64 years old and is living on a First Nations reserve and receiving assistance from the band office. And this section also in 2018, there's a new supplement that for people who is in disability. For people who is disability is an allowance of $52 where they can receive it, people who is living with a person with disability. But this, you have to apply for it if you want to do it, and it's also applicable for it at the Ministry of Social Development. Next slide, please. How much costs this bus pass? Well, seniors pay $45 per year, and is valid for 1 calendar year, so 1 year round, and expires on December the 31st. As I said, everyone who wants to use a bus pass has to apply for it and also make the payment in their banks, right, or financial institution that they are linked to. This fee is not prorated if you apply mid-year. So what this means is if you decided to sign up for a bus pass, to apply for a bus pass in July, you are going to pay that full amount. Next slide. So how to apply for this program? Well, as I mentioned it before, the Ministry of Social Development is always there and is a way where you can apply by directly contacting them. But of course, online, you can do it also online, applications for bus pass program, address, any change that you can make if you are a holder already of this bus pass, if you want to change your address, you can just do it online, and there's an address there where you can visit and do so. You can send an email, of course, with general inquiries. Also, there's a link there where you can email the form, and then they are very good on answering these questions. Next slide. So here we keep talking about where you can ask for information about the bus pass and who can assist you, right? So the most important thing here is that in order to get assistance for any inquiry that you may have regarding to your BC Bus Pass, you have to give them your 9-digit BC Bus Pass program account or your social insurance number. Everything is linked with your social insurance number, so they can provide an accurate information related to your BC Bus Pass, a very personalized. Next slide, please. As I said, well, I already talked about this, that you have to provide that you have to provide your BC Bus, your social insurance number, and then you can call at this phone number, is this 1-800 number, and then you enter the 10 phone number and press the option 3 and then the option 1, and they will answer your phone call. Next section. As I said, you have to apply in order to get a BC Bus Pass, but you are going to receive, if you are already a holder of them, you are going to receive the application form by mail, and then you can apply. If you don't receive the application by October, please email or phone the Bus Pass program, and they will send you a renewal letter, or also come to 411 Senior Center. We can help you with this. Okay, yeah, we talked about this already, and I think it's all for my side. Yeah, it's all from my side. Thank you.
Great. That's great. There is a question, and I think it's a reasonable one. This is a great program, and for seniors who have already enlisted, and I know that many of them use it often, and in fact, probably a lot of them use it to get down to you at the center. But in the time of COVID, I know that there's lots of folks, and seniors in particular, who are worried about traveling on the buses and on transit. Are there any other supports or programs that you know about where seniors can get around and feel safe in doing it? Is that something you're hearing about? Or I know you said that this doesn't apply to Handy Dart, but do you know of other things at all?
If people can phone BC 211, it's a provincial-wide phone service that's run by the United Way. And they can ask about services in their specific community. There may be volunteer drivers or volunteer programs, or people who will volunteer to get them groceries or whatever, instead of them having to go out in their specific neighborhood.
Great, thank you. 211
is really important to know.
I would like to add some comments. You know that I was worried about that, about this inquiry that Jeff has said, and it's because, well, many of our seniors are trying to get around, mostly with these applications of their taxes, and they want to come to the center, and they were asking how to get a hold of us, right? So they live in communities that are not nearby us. So I was searching and saying, how was transit really doing? And you know, I was at the beginning of the pandemic biking to my workplace, trying to avoid a public transit. But you know what? I really have to applaud the TransLink service. They are providing a great service. Everything is pretty clean. There's many people there, like making sure that everyone is taking their precautions and distancing each other. So it's pretty amazing, that effort of our province government, and it's doing well. I think I feel safe. I felt safe. I'm safe.
Yeah, but as we I think you're right. They are doing a great job. But I think, as we know, what we've learned in this tough time is basically everybody has to set their own limits. And if they don't feel safe doing something, then they need to make sure they don't do it. But and so I think for Marion, you're right. It's good advice, and certainly in Burnaby, you know, we do have some services, and you can call BC 211, and you can also go to the BurnabyCoronavirus.com website, which has some resources on it for seniors. If you click on the seniors button, you'll see lots of information there. And just so folks know, for if you came to the session and you wanted to see the session, we are recording it, and it will actually be up on that website, so you can go and see it there. And even better, you can also tell your friends who may not have been able to attend to come and see it, and the information will stay up. But maybe most importantly, I think a message that I heard loud and clear is, this is good information, and if you don't remember it all, but there is help at the 411 Senior Center, and you can, they're there, and they're really willing to help you through all of these different programs, and also the new stuff as it comes up, because what we know in this world right now is, more than ever, things change on a regular basis. So they're the folks who can really help you out with this. I will ask the question. I know you talked about in person. Can people phone for help as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
they can
yes,
phone.
they can call us. They can call us. The phone number is 604-684-8171, and leave a message. We are every day checking the voicemail, and then we are reaching back every single phone call and voicemail. Yes. Also, they can visit our website. And then we have also there a space where they can email us, and we are responding as well.
That's great, and we will put up on the BurnabyCoronavirus.com website. We will put up, I think they're already there, but there will also be direct links to the 411 Senior Center. So their website and their phone number, as well as a link to this presentation. And we'll also be able to, I think for participants, we'll also email you the link. So you'll have lots of opportunities.
Yeah.
So there aren't a lot of questions, because you guys have done such a great job. I really appreciate it. Again, I want Dave, did you have something just to?
I just wanted to add something. I think it's really important to reinforce how important this supplement is to seniors' benefits, and there's also a housing element to the GIS. That's if someone's applying for a supportive housing at BC Housing, or for a safer grant to support their rent, that supplement is also a vital piece of it. There are so many things that count on the supplement, and getting it applied for and then maintained, right, is really super important.
Yeah, I guess what I hear is, you know, for someone, a senior, to spend an hour or two just sitting down with you guys would probably be a really great thing, a really valuable thing for going forward, and also give them some peace of mind that they know that they're covering their bases.
Yeah.
And that's a
Do we
tremendous.
have time to briefly go through SAFER, or are we running out of time?
We have a couple minutes.
Okay, I'll try and go through SAFER. So one of the things that we see very often at the 411 Senior Center is seniors who are struggling with rent, and so often. And there's a program that not a lot of people know about, which is called SAFER, Shelter Aid for Elderly Residents, and it provides monthly cash payments in your bank account to eligible residents to assist with your rent. And it's a very important program. You need to apply for it. Next slide. So you have to be 60 years or older. You have to have lived in BC 12 months before your application. You have to pay more than 30% of your gross monthly income towards your rent. Next slide. And you're not eligible if you live in subsidized housing or co-op housing. Next slide. So, and you're also not eligible in the Lower Mainland if your monthly income exceeds $2,550 a month. A number of seniors organizations are lobbying to change this, but at this point, it's those levels. Next slide. You can go to the online SAFER calculator and actually figure out how much you're going to get. Any amount helps with people's rents. Next slide. So you have to complete an application form. You can get those, you can phone BC Housing to get them. To get one, you can do it online. We had them at the 411 Senior Center, and we and other senior serving organizations can assist you with your application form. But this will help you with your rent if you meet the income requirements and pay more than 30% of your income for rent, which so many seniors do. Next slide. So you can, and it just explains where you can get the safer applications. Next slide. And so you need to attach supporting documents like rent receipts and things like that. And you can get assistance from 411 or a number of places. Next slide. And it just outlines your, what documents you need. Next slide. And you have to annual confirmation, but they'll send you a reapplication 3 months before your birthday. Next slide. That's it. Yeah. So, especially in this time where we're paying so much for housing, Safer is a really important resource, and unfortunately, it's an underused resource, and people should use it.
That's great. That was like a bonus, Marion. That's wonderful. And I do, we know, and this, I think this is for folks on the line, but also Dave mentioned, if you have friends or neighbors, we know that there's lots of seniors right now who are, they're worried about paying their rent, and they're worried about losing their housing, and if they don't know about this kind of program, this can be what keeps them in their houses, safe and in their houses. So if you can pass that on to your friends, if you can consider it yourself, if you need it, again, if you can do it yourself, but you can also connect with Marion and the folks at the 411 Senior Center, and they'll help you to get through that. So
I just need to emphasize, and I think Monica and Dave will do this. Will do the same. Is that everything we've talked about is predicated on seniors filing their income tax.
Right.
Even if you have no income, very low income, and are not going to get any money back, in order to maintain your eligibility for the GIS, to get pharmacare, to get safer, to get the bus pass, you need to file your income tax. This year, because of COVID-19, seniors have till October 1st to file their income tax. But all these are predicated on filing your income tax.
Great. And so even though you have the extra time, if you want to get these benefits, you have to have your income tax filed. It's a little bit of an odd thing that, you have the extra time, but you can't get the benefits. So you should file your taxes as quickly as you possibly can.
Yes. And you know what? That there's many people who think that just with just by having the age requirement, they are going to automatically receive these benefits. Is a no, right? We have, first of all, to file taxes, as Marion said, but also to apply for these benefits.
Yeah.
Coming automatically. So it requires an action, be proactive, right, on this. Yes.
That's great. Well, thank you once again to the three of you, and also to Daisy, who we had issues with our translation, and I apologize for that. But Daisy was here and was ready to, and when the next time we'll make sure that it works just a little better. But again, thanks for your patience, and again to Marion and Dave and Monica, thank you so much for your time. To participants, I hope it was as valuable for you, certainly as it was for me. And stay safe out there, and make sure that if you have questions, you take them to the 411 Senior Center. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care.